for everybody on the call, what I'm going to do is pretty much just show you a quick application on how to use maps, and then open it up for questions. And then what we can do is, provide that access to that new library for the maps. We'll figure it out and put that information on the WhatsApp group, if that's okay with you guys. So I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, please.
Okay, great. So let me close and open up Graphite. So here's a Graphite project called Solomon Street Pro. First thing I'm going to do here is do edit project and show you guys a new library that was built by a partner company called GeoSpark. And they created a Graphite library called Mapbox. So basically, if you go to the internet, and if you Google Mapbox, it's one of the more commonly used mapping library. It's just like Google Maps. Graphite has support for, Mapbox, and also another map called Esri Maps, which is the most commonly used map in the world. So Esri Maps, so it has support for that. But in this particular project, Mapbox is used. So we'll open the library and we'll take a look at what's in the library. But basically, once you use this library, really don't get any. There you go. You have there's really no entity that's needed, just a view element called map, which I'll show you in a second. So for example, if we take a page called trees add edit, here I have in the region I have a map, and this is the map. So you have the map details here, where you can put the latitude and the longitude. You can say whether the geolocator is not. That's the little thing there. I'll show you all the details about these properties. And so when you click on the map, this behavior gets called, and Graphite passes you latitude and longitude that you can use to do whatever calculation. In this case, I think we call this method, which adds a marker on the map. So let's actually look at the application, so that will kind of give you a better idea, and then we'll come back in here. So here's the login screen. Again, if we go back into Graphite, I'll show you the login screen. It should be pretty straightforward. There's a login screen. So I'm going to log in as Scott H, which is the default super user login. And as you can see, there are a bunch of users here. I'm going to log in as set C. SCTHC. I think there's a password I had set up. I'm going to type in the password. And this is the first page. As you can see, we looked at graphs in the last webinar. So you can see there are two bar charts here and one pie chart and a table here, grid. We don't really recommend grids because they, when you're looking through a grid horizontally left to right, you always miss the rows and you pick the wrong numbers. And especially in a good business software that is being used by customer service reps and things like that, you don't want to give out wrong values to customers. So we try to use display. That's why the display detail control exists in Graphite. Most developers jump to start using grids. We highly recommend that they don't use it. So anyway, this is the dashboard screen. Let me talk about what this application does. there's a state called Oregon in the United States. And what these guys started to do was they started to track every single tree in the urban area. So what that means is, it's probably got one of the largest forests in the world. And, but there are tons of cities and towns, right? And people plant trees everywhere in the US, right? And so these guys wanted to track the tree, then have a calculation per tree on how valuable it is for the community. And so they did a bunch of research to calculate the total value, or like things like how it helps the environment, what is the quality of the wood, pretty much everything about a tree that's valuable for the community, to show people that trees are very, very important. And if there's 5 trees around your house, that means you already have a value of whatever the money that this calculation does. So as you can see, majority of the trees in the state are good to fair. There are about 500,000 trees in the database right now. So what they do is they will go to a tree with an iPad or something like that, and in the map, they'll actually find the tree, and they'll touch that tree, and then using this app, and then it will show you the latitude and longitude. They'll measure the tree, enter it, and push save. That is done using this add tree link. So that's the state of Oregon. And let's say they're doing Salem, Oregon, right? Just like Salem in South India, but yeah. So they can just zoom in. And in fact, if they are, one sec, guys. Can you guys hear me? Sorry, Vijeta. I'm back. Oh, sorry, once again, give me a second here. Sorry, guys, I'm back. There's some technical glitch here. So anyway, if you guys can hear me, so they basically what they'll do is they can push this little tracker, geo tracker, and it'll take them right to where they're standing. But since I'm in Philadelphia and not in this street, I just zoomed in manually. So let's say they're near this tree. They'll click on this, and it'll bring the latitude and longitude. Then they'll measure the tree, find out what type of tree it is. They measure it. They enter the street. And click save. Once they save it, and I'm not going to save it here. Once they save it, then they can actually search for trees. So here they come into this manage trees section, and here they can say, hey, give me all the medium trees. And they can go right down to the county, city, and it shows every tree here. Here's something where you would use a grid, but instead of that in Graphite, we provide this thing called a display detail that can also be expanded. Now, you may ask, hey, repeating the title looks like a wasted space. And our thing, after a whole bunch of UI, UX research, we found that once a human being concentrates on whatever the item they're looking at, they don't want to, if they have to move their eyes up and down to the title of the table or, whatever, to the side and miss the column, you will never have that problem with display details. So that's one of the reasons why we did the display detail. So now if you look at this tree and if you open it, Graphite actually shows you a map with a marker on exactly where that tree is. Apparently this tree has been cut, but you see the appraised value. So they gave us some complicated calculations to find what the value of that tree is. And then finally, they wanted one screen where they can see all the trees that have been mapped in Oregon. And so that shows up here. What I did was here, I also, and I think right now we only included trees in Portland, which is apparently getting a lot of rain right now. There you go. So the trees are here somewhere under the, you will see green dots. You can go down to a single tree and click on it. But I overlaid that layer with the weather layer of the US. So right now there's, as you can see, there seems to be a lot of rain and snow all over the country here. So that's pretty much the app. Let's go in and see how we added a map. So we'll open up, for example, we'll open up this page. And once again, map only goes into display area. So I added a display area into which I added a map. So we saw these different styles and pitch and zoom. Pretty much if you read a little bit of documentation about maps, you'll understand what all these features are. And what a map contains is layers and markers, right? You can add a marker through a flowchart, or you can simply do add marker here and set its value and it will show up. Layers are a little bit different. So as you saw, you had a tree raster layer. So with all the tree data, there was a web service that I could call that would give me all the details about every single tree, all the 500,000 tree, which was going to end up becoming 2 million or something like that. So that, to put a raster layer, I added a raster layer, which is one of the layers here. And for the weather layer, in this particular case, I had to add 2 raster layers. So let's look at the onload view. In the onload view, so again, map has all these functions. So raster source as a raster layer, and here is the UR. There's got to be it. So that's the layer, and then the WMS style. These are all mapping function details. That's the URL that gives me every single tree. So if you read details on how to add WMS style through regular coding like JavaScript or C# or Java, it's like 1,000 lines of code. So in Graphite, it's just this one flow chart. And same thing, I added the weather layer here, and that's why that was done in onload view. So that's why as soon as we go into this page, you see the details here. So with that, what I thought was I will take questions.
Guys, any questions?
I'm opening up the chat. I think participation is a little bit light today, so.
Gino, any questions? I think we are good, Chris.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks for joining the webinar, guys. I wanted to keep it light today because I know it's Saturday night.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Have a nice